It was a house full of cruelty and horror, according to investigators in Columbia County, Florida. Brian and Jill Griffith, along with their adult children, have been arrested and charged with aggravated child abuse over the alleged mistreatment of 9 children in their care, 5 biological and 4 adopted. The abuse is described as harrowing, locking kids under bunk beds in makeshift cages, spraying vinegar in their faces, beating with canes, administering non-prescribed medication, and forcing children to lie under plywood boards. Some children reportedly couldn't read and didn't know their birthdays or their full names. Now the parents were back in court, and one of the questions, what did the children say in their interviews, and will it be enough to prove the charges? Tonight, we take a closer look. Meanwhile, a 17-year-old in Marion County, Florida, triggered an Amber Alert, claiming he'd been abducted and shot by 4 Hispanic men. It was an all-out investigation by local, state, and federal authorities, and now the sheriff says the story was a hoax. The teenager allegedly bought camping gear in advance, fled by bicycle, and shot himself in the leg to sustain the deception. The sheriff wants to speak with the teenager, but now his parents have shut it down, not allowing their 17-year-old son to speak with investigators. Is this a legal case or a parenting case? Our think tank breaks it down. But first, A-list celebrity and Fast and Furious star Tyrese Gibson now faces an arrest warrant for alleged animal cruelty. The allegation, his 4 Cane Corso dogs are accused of mauling a neighbor's Cavalier to death. Tonight, we take a look at what happened in this affluent Atlanta neighborhood and ask the question, did Tyrese Gibson commit a crime? Should an owner be criminally responsible for the actions of his pets? I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us here tonight on Closing Arguments. And this first story, I think, is something that a lot of folks can relate to. But it is a celebrity we're talking about. Tyrese Gibson is his name. You may recognize him from the Fast and Furious movies. Maybe you've bought some of his music that he has written or performed. He's an A-lister. He's a star. He's a superstar. He's got money. He's got influence. He's got a beautiful house. And he lives in a wonderful neighborhood. He's also a dog owner, like many of us. Loves his dogs. Now, dog ownership comes with some level of responsibility to take care of your pet and to make sure your pet doesn't do anything wrong. Whether it's to your neighbors or people visiting your house, whatever it is, you have some level of responsibility, right, as a dog owner. I think we all do. Well, apparently his dogs were loose in his neighborhood and created a major problem, which involved one of his neighbors and one of his neighbor's dogs, which ended up getting mauled to death. And now this has all come around to the point where Tyrese Gibson, the owner of the dogs, is now wanted. There's an arrest warrant out for him. So how do you go from being, you know, a superstar, A-list celebrity, loving dog owner, living in a beautiful neighborhood, to now wanted? Let's bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas, joining us with details on this one. Let's begin, because everyone's wondering, the victim in all this is another dog.
A small dog, Vinny. We're talking about a Cavalier Spaniel, a dog, you know, that looks like the size of a football, compared to 4 Cane Corsos. And I don't know if you know anything about Cane Corsos. These dogs can get up to 150, 180 pounds. They're massive dogs. So 4 of them piling up on this one small Spaniel. Let's take a look at this photo obtained by 11 Alive News in Atlanta. You see the size of it. It's a little, look at it, it's a little floof. Look at those, that's the definition of puppy dog eyes, if I've ever seen them.
Yeah.
Compared to these 4 big, you know, little more monstrous looking dogs.
And this is the dog who ends up getting mauled to death.
Yes.
That's the other 4 dogs. Okay, so what's the history here? Is this the first time these dogs are on the loose, or is there a history of these dogs wandering around?
That's the kicker, because there is a history of these dogs, whether it's 1 that got out, whether it's 4 that got out. neighbors have documented this to the police. And I actually spoke with Captain Nicole Dwyer with the Fulton County Police today, talking about the history of these dogs getting out. Take a listen.
The neighbors say this has been going on for at least a year. We know it's been going on for at least a couple months. The dogs are breaking through the fence, getting out, and then just roaming the yard. Sometimes it's all four of them. Sometimes it's one. Sometimes it's two. They've chased neighbors. Neighbors are scared to come out of their house. And now a dog has been killed. So it's been building up to this. As far as the court case, there's a history, and he's been warned multiple times. And before the attack, animal control officers tried to cite him for a nuisance dog and dog at large, but he was never home to cite.
So, Vinny, you heard her there. This happened before. They went to his home to give him a citation before. He wasn't there. Kind of similar to what's going on here now in this specific situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be frustrating, obviously, for everyone in that neighborhood if you got these four huge dogs which get out again and again and again. Is he complying? Like, what's going on with Tyrese Gibson? What's he been doing? Because he's now wanted.
Right. Now, that's the thing. Now, Captain Dwyer said she had a three-way call with Gibson, his manager, and herself, pretty much, after this happened in mid-September, asking him to turn these four dogs over to them. He said no, did not comply. He's out of the country somewhere. Take a listen to what she says this conversation went like.
Originally, he had, through his manager, had said that he was going to surrender the dogs. So on the 22nd, we went over there with animal control, spoke to him on a three-way call with his manager, and he let us know that he decided he didn't want to surrender the dogs. And he asked for 3 or 4 days to figure out what to do with the dogs. But I explained to him that this has been going on already too long and something needs to be done today. And so I said, try to encourage him to surrender the dogs. Again, he said no. And I said, well, I'll have to, obtain a search warrant for your residence. And he essentially told me, do what you need to do. And so later that day, I obtained the arrest warrant for animal cruelty for him, and then a search warrant for his residence, which we executed that evening. I have spoke to his attorney a couple times, and he just keeps telling me that he's working on getting his affairs in line.
That's it.
That's it. I gave him till last Friday to turn himself in, and here we are Wednesday, and that still has not occurred.
Getting his affairs in line.
That's surprising, though. I mean, a celebrity, he's not going to prison for this, right? But not complying and kind of ignoring everything. That's surprising to me. Let's get back to the Cavalier, the little dog. You spoke with the dog's owner.
Yes, this guy named Harrison Parker obviously lives just a couple houses around the corner from Mr. Gibson. He explained to me, he took me back to that night, September 18th, when he says he let the little dog go out just to use the bathroom as normal, thought it would come back in the house as it usually does, and then he opened the door to see the tragedy that unfolded. Take a listen to his story.
He's calling at the door, let him outside to do his business, and he didn't come back after a few minutes, and normally that's what he does. So went and checked on him, and I spotted this little odd, floofy body, just lying in the shadows towards the top of my driveway. Now, our invisible fence doesn't go all the way to the street, so it goes halfway. So, went over and there he was. And it was clear that it was recent. His body was soaking wet, which, we don't have a pool, we don't have a lake, we don't have anything like that. So I would assume that is dog slobber. And at the time, I didn't know what it was. I was so confused. I'm like, why is my dog not breathing? And why is he wet? I panicked, freaking out, and, took him to the Blue Pearl Emergency Hospital. And, he was dead. There was no doubt. And asked the emergency pet hospital woman, what happened here? And she said it wasn't a coyote attack. It wasn't a car accident. She said she didn't know what it was, but she knew that he had broken ribs and that he had taken a huge amount of crushing force to his little body. And, You know, so I took my dog home in a box that evening and cried, you know, with my mother. And we wanted to get him buried because he had rigor mortis setting in, right? So I dug him a hole and put him in there. And, you know, the next day when we were starting to uncover everything, the investigators had to come dig him up, and that was hard.
Vinny, Harrison also expressed to me his frustrations with the situation, given that this was a recurring event in the neighborhood coming from Gibson's home. Take a listen to what he had to say about his frustrations.
I'm devastated about my dog, but I'm thankful that nobody else, you know, myself or other people in their property were injured. You know, it's the dangerous animals, and Mr. Gibson was very aware of that. And the fact they were out like 5 times before, sometimes during the day, you know, shoot, they could have gotten into somebody just walking their dog on the street. Yeah, it's inexcusable. It's a different ballpark, right? Like, this is somebody who just knowingly did not care and was also aware of what they're capable of. I mean, it's just those two things that come together that makes this so, in my opinion, heinous, right? Like, I mean, I just don't understand how anybody can view this otherwise. But that people are very careful with their firearms, or supposed to be, right? We have tons of laws about that. Why not about giant attack dogs, right? Like, you should be extra sure that you are careful about your dogs. And so.
Now, Vinny, Captain Dwyer did say that Gibson has said these dogs have since been rehomed, but they don't know where these dogs are. And Harrison says wherever those dogs are, he just hopes they're well contained so they don't get out and hurt somebody else's pet, let alone another human being.
So extremely dangerous. Cody, thanks so much. I want to bring in our think tank, join us live in studio tonight. Criminal defense attorney, former assistant state attorney in Miami-Dade County, and former assistant DA in Atlanta, Daryl Cohen. Criminal defense attorney and law professor Meg Strickler, and the man behind the glasses, criminal defense attorney Josh Schiffer. One of the reasons I want to do this story was because this is something I think everyone can kind of relate to a certain level. You might have that dog in your neighborhood, or you know, this happens. But the thing that I think really struck the victim here is that he doesn't care. Like, he's not responding to law enforcement, his lawyers. What is going on with that? Why do you think they've kind of given, you know, animal control and everyone sort of the run around?
What bothers me is not just that, but apparently these dogs had gotten out several times before, and there have been complaints. So that's irresponsibility. And I don't care if I'm in Europe, I'm in Asia, or at the house. It's my responsibility, if it's my dog, to take care of them and to make sure that they are taken care of, and also don't hurt, maul, or kill another animal. This is it's absolutely destructive.
I don't understand how they got out. My dog is a hooligan and a Houdini. He gets out all the time, and he finds fancy ways to get under the fence, around the fence. It's always impressive. But he's a lab, so all he's going to do is lick people to death. That's about it. If you know your dog is a hooligan / Houdini who's coming out of your house, you find a way. You use the invisible fence, you use a collar, you do everything you can to make sure the dog stays in. I don't understand 5 times. That doesn't make sense. 1 time doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but really the interesting part was at the very end, where the dogs have been rehomed. If you look at what the remedies are for the state, and I unfortunately intimately know this specific court. This is my community. This is where I live. The state has very few remedies except to take the dog, which they are, knowing that court, very willing and aggressively going to do with multiple prior issues. They'll give you a chance. They might give you a second chance. 5 chances, dead property of another person, could have been a child. There's no way that prosecutor is going to give up until those dogs are in their possession. And now the game is going to be Mr. Gibson's defense, which is, I don't know where those dogs are. Oh, that's not a court you want to say stuff like that to.
Now, the fact that he hasn't turned himself in, what happens there?
Remember, this is not like a crime like you would think of, like an assault or something like that. These are most often prosecuted under very specific either county or other types of code sections where you get trial rights, but this is more quasi-criminal civil
But he's
because
charged with
dogs are
cruelty to
property.
animals, is he not? He's charged.
no,
He's
he's not.
arrest warrant.
Yeah, he's charged
Oh, he's charged with cruelty to animals?
But also, there's no excuse for thumbing your nose at the law, especially when you're a high-profile.
Yeah, it seems like things are getting worse and worse for
law-abiding
him. I want you to take a look at this. 9mag TV posted a video of Tyrese showing off what he calls the world's most elaborate doghouse to their YouTube page. Take a look.
Y'all ready to go back in y'all house? Look at this custom house, man. Look at this thing. Some call it a dog house. I call it a mini mansion. Y'all ready to go back in y'all elaborate Beverly Hills home? There you go. The most elaborate dog house ever. Double-sided. Look at that.
So, I mean, it's clear. We know he's got the money and the ability to do whatever it takes, right?
I'll also note he's very politically active in the local community.
So what does that mean? How does that impact all this?
I give a lot of money to politicians, not just because they're nice people and I support them, but sometimes when you're free with your money, you get access, you get this is a discretionary prosecution in many communities. They don't do a lot for dogs on the loose, even when they kill another person's dog. Certainly it wouldn't be something where you'd get charged for something your dog did. I'm interested to see if this really is a felony charge of cruelty to animals because it's the action of his dog killing another dog.
I think it's a misdemeanor, though, is it? I don't know. I think I
believe
read it's a misdemeanor
but either
today.
way,
It could
it's
change.
inexcusable not to take care of your dog when it has happened once, twice, 3 times, 4 times before. That is inexcusable.
You're the owner.
And you're the owner, and you have the responsibility to make sure that your dogs are good. My dog will either hurt you by kissing you to death or with his tail. He loves everything and everybody. But when you don't have a dog like that, especially when your dog is large, there is no excuse. It's inexcusable behavior not to pay attention.
He has a lawyer. A statement from his attorney was posted on Tyrese's Instagram profile yesterday, along with this video of his dogs. Take a look at it. The statement read in part, Mr. Tyrese Gibson wishes to extend his deepest condolences to the family who lost their beloved dog in this tragic incident. Mr. Gibson was out of town when the incident occurred, but he accepts full responsibility for his dogs. As soon as he learned what had happened, he immediately made the incredibly difficult decision to rehome his 2 adult dogs and their 3 puppies in safe and loving homes. The liability of keeping them was simply too great, and his heart could not bear the thought of anything like this ever happening again. For the past 3.5 years, Mr. Gibson has been dealing with stalkers randomly showing up at his home. His only motivation in bringing these dogs into his life was to protect his family and provide peace of mind. These dogs were never trained to be vicious. They never spent a single day in attack training until this incident. They never had harmed a child, a person, or another dog. Reactions.
Wow, I didn't read that till now about the stalking and he's getting these dogs. I mean, what are you talking about?
Come on now, but you missed the most important word, the liability, because a good dog bite case is your insurance broker's worst nightmare. Dog bite cases tend to be emotionally charged. You get big nuke verdicts with little girls getting beaten and chewed on by big mean dogs who should have been locked up, because unfortunately, this is the South. Go try to get damages on a dog, you'll find out how much your dog's actually worth. They're measured by the pound. You do not get any emotional damages for your dog. That is a piece of property. And if your property damages my property and causes injury to a human, major bucks. And his lawyers told him, you don't get rid of those dogs, you're gonna end up in the poorhouse.
And it would have been nice to know that he has not through his lawyer said, I'm sorry, but made a phone call and said, I am so sorry. Come back to Atlanta, turn yourself in, go to your neighbor and say, I am so terribly sorry for what happened. Never in my life would I have expected that to happen. This is not the way it should be played out. And I feel so sorry for the victim's dog. And again, being a dog lover, it's really tough to hear both sides of this.
Now, the interaction with the woman who's filing the charges, we spoke with her, and there was this phone call, and it seemed like kind of like very dismissive of the process, like, oh, Nothing's, nothing's going to happen to me. To me, that's really problematic, because that doesn't make things better.
That's not dismissive. That is good community policing, working with the law enforcement, because Atlanta tries to work things out until it goes too far when it comes to these dog and community issues, because every community has problems.
It seemed Tyrese was very dismissive of her.
Well, that's where your problem's
right.
This is not somebody that likes to be ignored. They work in animal law enforcement, which means they didn't do it for the millions of dollars of the glory. This is someone that cares, not someone I'd pick a fight with and be dismissive of.
All right, we're going to keep an eye on what happens with this, if he turns himself in, if he issues the apology. Bottom line, I mean, that poor little dog. All right, when we come back, another story. This one's out of control. A teenager down in Florida allegedly fakes his own abduction. We've got the details from the sheriff, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, we break down the video hour by hour on the day Kentucky Sheriff Mickey Steins shot and killed Judge Kevin Mullins. What does this video reveal? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
4 dead students.
None of it seemed to make any sense.
He was evil.
What devastation.
All I can do is scream.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rowlands. New episode Saturday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific.
Only on Court TV.
Hello, Marion County citizens. Sheriff Woods here. I know many of you have been deeply invested into this case of Caden Spate. When you heard the initial alarming information that was being given to us, many of you even joined in to help in any way you could. And I want to commend my deputies and detectives that sprang into action and worked through the night and into the next day on this. In addition, we also had help from around the state and federal agencies. Many people reached out.
It's a big story out of Marion County, Florida. Caden Rex Spate reports himself abducted in a text message to his parents, and obviously law enforcement jumps in and tries to find him, issuing an Amber Alert. Take a listen to Sheriff Billy Woods give us the rest of the story.
Because of their hard work, the initial details that Caden texted to his family were proven to be false, completely made up. We did find evidence of a single gunshot where Caden left his truck. However, his claims that he had been shot and abducted were quickly disproven. We then learned that he had purchased a bicycle, tent, and camping supplies just prior to him reporting this. Now, I want to make something abundantly clear. Probably many of you are asking, well, why do you diverted so many resources? The truth is, in all cases, we cannot take anything that's done or said lightly. We have to take it as though it was the truth in the beginning. Because heaven forbid, if something just made one little turn and it turned out to be the truth. So, because of this alarming amount of red flags that initially kept going up, we had to continue the investigation. But here's the thing. We had witnesses that contradicted the initial information. Caden simply rode away towards Williston, while the rest of us were left to think the worst, and my team was working in an overdrive to solve this case. Now, to continue the ruse, Caden, who had a handgun with him since the beginning of all of this, chose to shoot himself in the leg, causing a non-life-threatening injury just prior to walking out to the roadway where he would be located by citizens in Williston. There is zero chance that Caden's gunshot wound came from any type of an assailant. Now, many of you have asked, will Caden be facing any charges? What about the taxpayers' cost of this large-scale investigation and search? Trust me, it is on my mind. I can tell you those items are not off the table at this point. Right now, we are still processing all of the evidence in this case. I don't want to make any statements on that until we have fully examined it all. Naturally, my detectives had a lot of questions for Caden. However, his parents refused to allow my detectives to speak with him so that we could come to a true final conclusion in all this.
This one really bothers me because the report is made and law enforcement puts all these resources into trying to find this kid as a result of a call from his parents. Then when it turns out that the kid is lying, the parents are shutting it down. What's going on here? Let's bring back in our think tank. Daryl Cohen, Meg Strickler, Josh Schiffer. Is this a legal case or a case about parenting right now?
Give those parents a medal.
A medal for what?
For not throwing their kid to the jaws of a sheriff that is so embarrassed. He's going out there making ridiculous, clownish films like that, where he's...
What do you mean, clownish?
He's commenting on...
He tried to find somebody, he put the Amber Alert out, all the resources to find a child. That child's lying, and now the parents shut it down.
On a 17-year-old that he knew was lying. He just said, we had other witnesses contradict everything, yet we still wasted all this, made a whole big to-do out of nothing, probably hoping...
You know what? He
you
did
call
what
law
he should have
enforcement,
done.
my child's been abducted, they jump into action. Amber Alerts. Everyone in the community is notified, right?
What am I hearing here? I'm hearing a 17-year-old who was old enough to shoot himself in the foot, old enough to say, oh my gosh, I've been kidnapped by 4 Hispanics, and protecting the parents. I understand why the parents are protecting him, but oh my gosh, there needs to be some in-house
discipline.
punishment.
Can we maybe ask why this happened and what's going on, like mental illness, child abuse? What the heck's going on here? What is this?
I have no idea why, and investigators won't know why because the parents shut it down. They're not talking.
They'll find out.
They're not talking.
Watch out for that.
So at this point, it doesn't matter why.
But listen,
it matters what he did.
The parents
He's
aren't
gonna
talking,
get charged
but
now.
Technology will be talking. We'll know a whole lot more about the storyline because he'll have tweeted or he'll have been on Discord or he'll have been on doing
a video.
All of it. No, but his background talking to whomever and whatever.
I like what this sheriff has done. I don't like the way he does it on camera.
I love it.
But I like what he's done because
it's called
it's
transparency.
saying to any other kid in this country who may think about doing the same thing, he or she is going to be thinking second, third, and fourth thoughts about whether
he's already tried and convicted this kid, told the audience before his officers can finish their investigation that it was impossible for him to have been assaulted.
Right. They figured it out. They solved the case.
Good for him.
Why? If he's actually abducted, do you think the parents would shut it down? No. They'd be looking for the abductors.
Judge, jury, executioner with a badge and a screen.
How about a little responsibility? Like, the parents should be grateful and thankful that this sheriff and all of his deputies jumped into action to find their child when they believed he had been abducted.
And that
when it turns out he wasn't, now all of a sudden the parents are like, stay away from us.
And that justifies this sheriff doing an infomercial for his next election? No, it doesn't. Waste of resources.
Yeah. No, the whole community was out looking for this kid. This was an Amber Alert. That's an abuse of that system that is so important to find real victims.
It was a waste of resources. Why? Because they found out that this young 17-year-old was a liar. Boom. It was perjury. And I understand.
Should the parents be charged too?
I think the parents should be able to be forced
Under what
to
theory?
pay, not
They're the ones
charged
who call law
criminally,
enforcement.
but I would think that there is a civil theory where the parents are going to be paying back a great deal of money that was expended because of what their son
Let me ask
did.
you about that. Are the parents responsible because it's a minor? So they're the ones who have to grant the ability for him to be interviewed, right? Because he's a minor. So does the financial liability now fall on the parents?
Well, of course, because he can't pay it himself. He doesn't have any money. He's 17. But more importantly, again, once we get this tapestry filled out as to what occurred, then we'll be able to assign some liability to more people here.
I ain't gonna blame parents when their kid doesn't show up for calling the police. That's why the police are there and we pay taxes. And guess what? I won't blame the police for using the Amber Alert and doing everything right. They deserve kudos for protecting the community.
Absolutely.
But then once they know that it's because a 17-year-old lied, you don't need to create a federal case and drag this kid through the mud about all the horrors that he caused, because now, what are we gonna get? Copycats.
You know what? This kid dragged himself through the mud.
Yeah.
He did exactly, and I disagree with you, Josh. As much as I love you, I disagree. I think that this type of situation that this created, that the more publicity that the law enforcement people get, the more positive it is, the less likely it is that another child of 17, 16, 15 will do the same thing in the recent future.
Should the parents step forward now and agree to pay the money?
They're not going to step forward, though, I don't think.
Yeah, I would.
But should they?
I think they should. If you do the right thing, you never have to worry. I think they should step forward and say, our son created a problem, and but for the grace of God, we're sorry he lied, but we're glad he lied, because he wasn't kidnapped and he wasn't shot by someone else. But we are going to offer to reimburse the county for what the costs were, because but for our son, they could have been doing something else.
And that'd be good lawyering.
Right.
That'd be really good lawyering to get out there and mitigate that before because really, without talking to the kid, the case isn't nearly as strong for substantive charges. It's just...
And let's talk about how important, Meg, will the why be in all of this, once that's uncovered?
It makes it all clearer, gives it some mitigating. What
if it's for clicks versus mental illness
I'm
versus
think it's
whatever's
gotta be
going on.
mental illness. You can't have done this for clicks. This is just too bizarre. There has to be a reason that he's getting a tent, a sleeping bag, and a bike. He's leaving, and he's trying to make it so I'm never coming back.
Well...
I'm guessing here.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's
But why
looking...
would you shoot yourself either? That one blows my mind.
That's a step
let's
far.
let's say they don't figure out that it's all a hoax, and he reappears shot. What are we doing now? We're talking about this miraculous escape by this kid, how he was victimized, and now we're looking for 4 Hispanics. Does that part bother you?
It bothers me 100%.
Identified the alleged attackers.
To lie that clearly and say 4 Hispanic males is very, very wrong.
If you go back in history, we may have seen multiple prior cases exactly.
Susan Smith, I believe.
Susan Smith. We have the Central Park 5.
That's
was back 30 years ago. And it's the same line. And I'm sure there were episodes long before that. But yeah, it ain't the first time we've seen this story.
All right, stay where you are. When we come back, folks, we got another big story to tell you about. Is the family, 9 children, abuse. We're going to talk about it, break it down. They were back in court, and we're going to try to uncover what really happened to these children.
On July the 3rd is when we got a call for assistance with the Department of Children and Family Services here in Florida, and the call was in relation to a court order to remove several children from the custody of this foster family. As a result of that investigation, DCF interviews, several allegations were made against the foster parents, and the investigation disclosed some information alleging severe abuse to several of those foster children. And that's how we became involved from the criminal investigative standpoint.
Okay, we're talking about this home, 9 children. It's a relatively small home. 5 biological children, 4 foster children, and allegations of abuse. So the father is charged, the mother's charged, and 2 of their adult children are charged. Now, the father was in court for a bond hearing, but some interesting evidence came out about some interviews that were done with the children that the defendant, the accused, believes will help him. Take a listen.
I'm representing Mr. Brian Griffith. He's the father of all of the children who were confiscated. The nature of the filed charges at this time for which Mr. Griffith faces charges, if true, would have happened in front of every single one of those kids. And so if that's the case, and these children are being interviewed, they weren't being asked about the weather, So it's either going to have inculpatory or exculpatory information. It's impossible for them to not be directly and centrally inextricably intertwined with the allegations of this case. And I understand that the initial arrest report or the arrest warrant contained a slew of allegations, which are not what have been filed, Your Honor. So there may be additional things which are irrelevant, but I think it's extremely unlikely that an entire multiple-hour interview was conducted with a single one of these kids that did not, the allegation that is charged that didn't mention those allegations or the reasons for those allegations. I suspect, based on what I've been able to review so far, that the children would say that the child was, the subject child for which he is facing the charge was confined because he was a danger to himself and the other children. He's injured the other children. He's hurt the other children to the point of drawing blood. He strangled the family pet. And so for those reasons, there were additional restraining safety measures put in place as to this child. So I understand that there may be additionally other allegations that were mentioned that are not filed, Your Honor, but I think that it's hard for me at this time to conceive of a trial taking place, even on the filed charge, without Mr. Griffith having the ability to review all of the interviews from all of the children. What are they denying as it relates to this allegation without violating his due process rights? Now, I understand that the court is, at least on those other charges, is subject to in-camera review. I certainly, as the court goes through that, I understand there is a voluminous amount of information to go through, Your Honor. So I don't know the time frame that it will take for that in-camera review to be completed. But I expect that there's going to be a slew of information. I would be shocked if there's even one video that doesn't mention the subject child for which the charge that Mr. Griffith is facing being mentioned in the circumstances of the disciplinary issues that were happening in the home as it related to that child.
Okay, now I know it might be a little difficult to follow him because the camera's behind him. However, what he's saying is that father is charged with abusing one of the children by sort of locking him in plywood. And what they're alleging there, it was done to protect the other children and the pets in the house. Now, take a look at this. This is from the charging document relative to the mother, Jill Griffith. Based on the testimonial and physical evidence collected during the course of this investigation, all adults in the home were found to have been active participants in the ongoing pattern of abuse by unlawfully caging the victim, a child of the age of 14. Additionally, it was discovered that Jill Griffith maliciously punished the child and another child of the age of 15 by spraying vinegar in their faces. Now, here's more information. One of the children, who is 14 years old, made several disclosures, stated that he would be caged under the bottom of the bunk bed either by his mother, father, or some of the other kids. He explained that a piece of plywood is placed over the entrance to his bed and screwed in, preventing him from getting out. He also reported that his mother occasionally asks him to scooch out of his bed and lie on the floor, during which she presses the plywood sheet onto his chest and back as a form of punishment. While talking about punishments, he also indicates that he has been sprayed in the face with vinegar. Now, the defense is trying to get the interviews with the other children because they believe those children will provide evidence as to why they were doing this. Redacted, who is 7 years old, confirmed that the victim, the 14-year-old, is confined during the day and at night to his bed. When asked about the reason for him being secured to his bed, the 7-year-old explained that he has a tendency to steal. Another child, 9 years old, confirmed that the victim is confined to his bed behind a piece of plywood every night, stated that his father screws in the board every night. Another one of the children, who is a 14-year-old, when asked why the 14-year-old male is locked in his bed, this 14-year-old female explained that it is because he hurts the dogs. This female confirmed that vinegar has been used as a form of punishment, noting that she and the male have been sprayed with vinegar in the face. Let's bring back in our think tank. Daryl Cohen, Meg Strickler, Josh Schiffer.
What do you do with a case like this? There's no defense. There's no defense.
Stop letting people have 9 kids in their house.
Does this testimony... Does this potential testimony of the other children help this father
Absolutely.
at all?
Absolutely.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
No.
If you get a bunch of the other kids that can establish the uncontrollable nature of the 14-year-old,
I'm gonna disagree with you
I'm
now.
not going to say it defends the father, but it provides context that the father and the mother didn't react appropriately when presented with a non-compliant 14-year-old.
They were acted criminally. Forget acting
all right, so
appropriate was one thing.
vinegar spray. Okay.
It's not okay.
It's not your preferred, but compared to so much.
Josh, it's cruel and unusual punishment. You don't spray vinegar in anyone's face.
It's a squirt.
Well, give me a spray bottle.
It's a squirt gun. I use it on my cat, man. Stay off the counter. Justice Kitty?
I'll represent your cat.
Fine.
That's what I'm saying.
But here's what I'm saying. How many times do we keep seeing a parent who is presented with an uncontrollable child and they
in Florida, same
they
thing.
don't have the tools and go to this police. Help me with my 14-year-old. Right. No, that child's your responsibility.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what the history is here, though, because this family was living in Arizona and recently moved to Florida. And I think the reason why they moved could be very relevant to what was going on in this family.
Agreed. And then also, why do they have 4 foster kids? Who is allowing them to have these
And these
children?
are people of the Ferreters, rich, $1 million house. This is the exact opposite of that.
Exactly.
But it seems that the adopted children may have been treated differently than the foster children, which is another problem. They also may have looked a little different than the biological children. Ethnically.
When did they foster? Were they fostering in Arizona and moved to Florida?
Yes.
Or was this recent?
Yes.
So when they got to Florida, the entire family came. If that's accurate, then there's absolutely less excuse.
Yeah.
Because you can go to your local police department, go to the hospital, go to the psychiatric ward. My son, my child, my daughter is a problem. We need help.
But you might
that.
You might lose the monthly check.
Yeah, and they may have done that. They may have a whole file at Department of Family and Children's Services saying, yep, they may continue to request about a non-compliant child that we don't have another place for. So when they say, we can't handle this child, we tell this parent, well, we can lock them up.
We shall see.
Because that's the alternative.
Trial scheduled for November. Josh Schiffer, Meg Strickler, Daryl Cohen, thank you so much.
Home Depot and Lowe's say, we don't want to sell that plywood.
Exactly. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, hour-by-hour video you do not want to miss. The day a Kentucky sheriff shot and killed the judge in his own chambers. The video is disturbing but revealing. Does it answer the question, why? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
4 dead students.
None of it seemed to make any sense.
He was evil.
What devastation.
All I can do is scream.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rowlands. New episode Saturday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific.
Only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. A new high-profile attorney for the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk. The new attorney's name is Michael Burt. Served as co-counsel for Lyle Menendez during his first criminal trial way back in 1993. That's the one which ended in a mistrial. He's also represented Eric Rudolph, the man convicted in the Olympic bombing in Atlanta, and also defended Richard Ramirez, the serial killer known as the Night Stalker who murdered 13 people in the 80s. He's used to high-profile cases. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on it. Right now, I need you to put your eyes on the screen. We have a missing child who needs your help tonight. This is Kenesha Johnson, missing since the 29th, out of Cincinnati, Ohio, just 17 years old. If you see Kenesha, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference, 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Cincinnati Police Department. That number's on your screen right now. Let's see if we get Kenesha to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.